Well, here's a bit of a strange one. The Philips Stereo 200. Now, I'm sure there are probably a few watching this and thinking something doesn't look quite right about that set. It doesn't look. Yeah, it's got the yellow speakers. Sometimes it came in bright orange, and yellow speakers. Yeah, the controls all look like they ought to, but this doesn't. Oh no. This is a bit of a sad tale. When this came to me, it had been very badly abused, shall I say. The tone arm was actually broken. Oh dear, yes. So I then did a bit of a cheeky thing because I don't really like the later style of tone arm anyway, because what they do on those, the cartridge still plugs into the end of the tone arm all right, but it does so on a rather nasty sliding contact thing, and they can give trouble. You know, you'll keep losing one side or the other, and it's just not as well made as this was. The other thing is that when your diamond stylus eventually wears out, because it's all integral with the little ceramic cartridge, you have to replace the lot. And if you look on eBay, among other places, you'll see that the assembly costs a lot more than the little flip over stylus I can put on this one does. So having this tone arm in a scrapper somebody else had given me, which well, I don't quite know what had happened to it, but I know it was unfixable as it stood. My thoughts turned to possibly doing a transplant. Would it fit? You know, can it be made to? And you'll never believe me, but the way this pivots at the back here is identical. They simply carried it through onto the later design. And so for the first time ever, this little set, which is usually very, very basic indeed, has a tracking control. A rudimentary one, admittedly, but you could slide that little lever back to increase or decrease the tracking force. And of course, you get two goes at your stylus too, because when you finish, you can just flip it over, and there's another LPS point on the other side. So yeah, it's rather good, I thought. The other thing is that because Philips made so many players, it doesn't look out of place, does it? It looks almost as if it's intended to be. The only thing I've got to do is sort this out, this little hole here. That was the mounting on the armrest on the original one. So I'll carefully make some sort of a cover for that that looks right, and then away it'll go again. But the owner was going to throw it out because said, "Oh, it's no bloody good, bloody thing. You know, the tone arm's all broke." Now, another consideration was, of course, is this old ceramic pickup, the plug-in head shell thing, the GP204 type, or 205, or AG3306, not 3304, 3306, compatible? Will it go? You know, will it be all right? Well, there was only one way to see, and that was to do it and hope it worked, really. And there you go. It is. It's more or less the same output. Well, I don't know about you, but that sounds pretty well spot on to me. And it still cuts off properly at the end, like that, like it should do. Because the geometry is more or less alike, I think. It doesn't damage the records, and it's surely better than just consigning the whole thing to the dump, isn't it? Now, some Philips models were made with a sort of adapter that plugged into the tone arm like this does, but had the slide thing for the later cartridge. And I do wonder, whether if you got one of these older cartridges, whether you could just plug that in and use that. I reckon you probably could. The only thing wrong now is that this little set, it hasn't got the 5-pin DIN socket on the back, so you can't tape from it, which is a bit of a pig, really. The same as that one, the little 603. Now that runs on 6 HP2 batteries, as well as the mains. Various different mains voltages are accommodated. This one was made only for Europe and is mains only, although the innards run on low voltage DC. So very much the same sort of animal as that. And that one was based on the 604 stereo, which did have a nice DIN socket at the back, so you could tape from that one. Because all these plug-in head shells, they were made stereo. Very often all they did was to bridge the two lives, if you like, together, if they wanted a mono one. A bit cheeky, but it sort of worked. Now the 603 decks, they don't sound too brilliant, I have to say. The sound is a little bit dry. And the reason is that they use these funny inside-out speakers. Nothing wrong with that as a concept, but by the time you get down to a tiny little 6x4, which is all that is, you're getting a little bit tinny, shall I say. But the good news is, if you plug it into different speakers with bigger drivers, don't go too mad on the wattage, by the way, because it won't pull it, if you see what I mean. The sound is transformed. They can sound a lot better. But if you do that and you use it ordinarily like that, do make sure they're the right impedance and they're wired in phase and so on. But whatever you do, don't chuck away the original speakers, because it's more valuable intact and as one than it is in bits. And I've seen so many of these sets in my time, all like this, where people have cut the original speaker wires off because these don't plug in, they're wired in, and they've gone and used it with different speakers. All very well, but chuck the old ones in the broom cupboard in the attic anyway, so long as they'll be safe. But yeah, so having put this tone arm on this a few years back now, I do wonder whether perhaps I could put a 5-pin DIN socket on the back of it, because it's already modified, so I'm not going to lose anything really, am I? And it will make it a bit more useful for recording from or whatever. Or I might just leave it, because heaven knows I've got enough record players, haven't I? Anyway, see you soon.